Will Vinton.
Here about stories. I'm going to talk a little bit about something I consider a corollary. I'll probably join the chorus a little bit on story, but something I think is a corollary of story, which is characters. Story doesn't exist without characters, characters without story. Good stories require great characters, and vice versa. They're really inextricable. In particular, these days you hear an awful lot about characters of the type that I'm really talking about, which are synthesized or animated characters, one type or another, created characters. There's a lot of talk about character creation rights, about new uses of characters these days. It's clear that they're a valuable commodity, licensing, merchandising, and so forth. Characters have a variety, especially the non-human type, have a rather effective, are very effective in utilizing and lending personality to brands, to products, attitude to products, which is largely what our company gets involved in. And of course, entertainment. Without characters, we wouldn't have entertainment. I think it's rather logical to imagine that characters are going to, of various types, synthesized characters, are going to play an important part of interactive entertainment, and play an important role probably in the internet and other kinds of things that are more emerging types of entertainment, if you will. Basically, I've been into creating characters for about 20 years with a group of other people of various forms, well, actually mostly dimensional forms, dimensional animation forms. What I'd like to do to start off here is show you a fast, quick montage of some of those characters that we've created, surrounded by, I think there's in the middle is a little piece called, with Wilshire Pig and Spike Rabbit, called The Art of Freeway Crossing. Let's go ahead and roll that first tape.
Obviously, we're running a tight ship here, so as much as you can move it, I appreciate it.
What is it that makes the move so great?
We'll turn the lights down. We'll turn the lights down, please.
This is it, where the rubber meets the road. Freeway crossing is an art form for rabbits. Now, observe. From there. Nice, huh? Okay, now it's your turn. Remember, relax. Reach out with your feelings. Be at one with the pavement and flow across. Just flow across. Go ahead.
What are you doing, McLean? This is nuts!
You tensed up there, pal. Let that rabbit in you flow across the road. Are you ready? Okay, go. I'm impressed.
We'll cut it there. Thanks. Lots of times people think that a character, creating an animated character, is creating a design. I don't really. I think a design it plays a role in the creation of a character for sure, but it's a very, very small part of that, of what actually makes a character. To really have, for a character to exist, for there to be character even, it has to come to life in one way or another. And that's the most dominant aspect of coming to life, I think, is performance. It's you know, when you examine what it is that this sort of world that I'm talking about, the world of sort of what brings really breathes life into a character, it's a really wonderful sort of subtle endeavor. You think for a minute about some of the actors, Tom Hanks, Meryl Streep, Clint Eastwood. And imagine, it's very easy to find design, a better-looking design, perhaps, than any of those human beings right off the street. Better-looking people, better-looking, you know, sort of characters, if you will. But put them both into a screen test, and one becomes the subtle differences that we recognize. One becomes a superstar, and the other becomes, well, maybe booed off the stage or something. The point is, there are very, very subtle things that has to do with performance. It has to do with the art that person is sort of bringing to this thing we call performance. And it's exactly the same thing, I believe, in synthesized actors, if you will, characters, animated characters in general. Bringing a character to life is the art of the animator. It's not about learning how to manipulate clay or learning how to manipulate or get great programs and know how to use those programs, computer software programs, animation programs. It's about a whole lot of other things. It's about a whole study, a whole knowledge of really primarily about humans. That it engages art, history, literature, music, of course, engages theater. You really sort of are bringing a whole range of skills, and of course storytelling as well. That knowledge is combined with, I think, a pretty healthy dose of the knowledge of physics, and of course brought to life through technologies of one form or another. So all of these things are necessary, in my opinion, to sort of truly bring something to life, to really breathe life into it. They all work together without really being consciously, without any sort of conscious effort on the part of an animator. These are all things, though, that are at work in the process. As I say, for about 20 years, our company, Vinton Studios, has been working, developing that art as best we could. We started out in claymation, which is actually a registered trademark. I know many of you will be surprised. How many of you know that claymation is a registered trademark? A couple of you do, anyway. Now you all know. We coined the word years ago, and it is a trademark word. We have engaged stop-motion techniques, and more recently extensive computer animation, and now animatronics. And really, what we've ended up doing is utilizing any three-dimensional technology that we've been able to get our hands on to be able to bring characters to life and to integrate them with live action and so forth. We think of ourselves not really as being in a technical business at all, though for years we thought we were really all about claymation. We sort of have rethought that, and I think that what we are really about now is our characters, and in particular, I kind of like the word unreal talent. I feel like sometimes unreal talent it describes this as almost like a talent agency or something, supporting, nurturing these characters, but also, and almost more importantly, supporting and nurturing the talent, the human talent behind this skill that it really allows us to bring things to life. It's often said, I think, that long-form entertainment is actually needed to bring out, really realize great characters. And that's a drawback for the internet, for interactive entertainment, for places where not as much time, not as much sort of finesse is possible at this stage to really be able to flesh out the significance, to really bring a character to life. And I submit to you a couple more spots, and I'm going to do a couple more 30-second spots that, to my mind, speak legends about the characters, speak legends about who they are, what their attitude is, and even, in a sense, give you a kind of a background, a backstory, just in these very short times. There are some projects that are new and we're quite proud of. I'll roll that tape. One just anecdote. One of the commercials you'll see is an M&M's commercial. The M&M's campaign is interesting because it's been around for 40 years. The brand manager, M&M's brand manager, said these are characters that had 40 years of recognition. The recognition was a mile wide and an inch deep. And what he meant was that it was known by everybody, but there was no depth at all to the characters. And even when the characters were moved into computer animation, that still didn't really happen. And I feel pleased that our organization, our animators, were able to sort of breathe some real life into these characters at long last. Anyway, let's roll that tape.
There she is.
My shell's cracking.
Yeah, she's beautiful.
You big
Okay.
Hi.
Yeah, I'll just be a couple more. That'd be great.
Oh, so sweet.
Thank you.
Give me a break. So, is it love?
Yeah, and love hurts.
Question, sugar.
Yes, Dennis?
Is it true what they say about the green ones?
That's an ugly rumor. It's a lie. How did this thing get started?
Okay, so you're not lying.
Lying? Where do you get your gossip?
A little hot under the candy, aren't you, sister?
Thank you. Same old story, told in a new way. Boy gets car, boy gets girl. I'd like to segue for just I have very little time here, and I know everybody's hungry, but I'd like to segue very briefly to something that's near and dear to my heart. Over the years of doing this kind of thing, if we could bring up the house lights, I've learned a few things, I think, along the way. It's taken me a while, but I've learned a few things. I started out actually in studying physics at Berkeley, went into architecture. Filmmaking was my first love. Done quite a diverse array of things to get to where I am. I'm working an awful lot with artists as well, and I've learned something that I think is kind of important. It's basically this in terms of a premise. It's the only skills that you possess that you're guaranteed that are guaranteed not to become extinct, to be guaranteed not to go away in time, are your creative skills. I think that's really a pretty important thing. I mean, another way of saying it is unless the talents that you have, the abilities that you possess, have a creative component to them, they're in danger of basically being done better by either advanced robotics, computers, and so forth in a matter of time. I think this has tremendous ramifications for our children, for our country, for our futures. Education, in particular, has got to be able to nurture and grow creativity in order to be relevant to the future. I think it's rather widely accepted that arts education is a primary source of nurturing that creativity. It has a unique ability to engage and to engage and sort of expand the imagination, allowing people to think outside the box, to understand the problems, that to every problem there may be multiple solutions, to every question there may be multiple answers, the ability to be able to translate creative ideas into something real and tangible. It requires something much more than being literal. It requires communication that employs metaphor, that employs allusion and innuendo. And I also think that the arts allow us to frame the world in an aesthetic perspective that is rather unique in terms of all of the educational disciplines. I know I'm preaching here to the converted in this particular room. We know this is true. And yet, at the same time, across the country, we find that arts education is the first thing to be cut out of all of the budgets in education as school districts are grappling with their own futures. And there's actually one other thing that I believe I've learned about this whole area of art, and that is that you can't teach art in a vacuum. You can't teach it all by itself and have it become a creative kind of endeavor. It has to be integrated with the humanities. It has to be integrated with technology. And my feeling is that technological media in schools and educational situations, the traditional ones, film, television, certainly new ones, interactive entertainment, and so forth, are a terrific way to teach kids because it's an integrating thing. It involves literature, art, it involves music, it involves all of these things, and it forces us to pull them together and to think outside the box, to think where the crossroads of all of these different disciplines take place. I personally am an advocate of this kind of thing, and that's why I guess I'm talking about it here. The mixture of art, technology, that intersection, and backed up by strong academics. I'm helping to found an academy called Northwest Academy, based in Portland, Oregon, for high school and college students that is based on that kind of education, generating creative education. And I've also started an organization years ago, actually, it's in its 8th year, the Portland Creative Conference, which is dedicated to creativity. I would like to, I say those things as kind of by way of an appeal to all of you who are converted, who do know that what I'm saying is true, who do know that the gravity of the educational situation in this country. I appeal to you to become a voice, to become an advocate in your own areas, in whatever areas you possibly can. I believe our humanity actually depends on it. Thank you.